Hi and welcome to Webducate. My name's Donna and I'll be taking you through this online webinar to show you the features and functionality of Webducate. Thanks for taking the time to join us. This is basically a tour of the system so that you can see how easily you can administer training, create courses, enrol students, manage progress and report on outcomes. There are two other online webinars that cover developing content and managing online learning, so we won't be going into a great deal of detail in these areas during this session. Every user on Webducate logs into their portal using their unique email address and a password. The portal is identified in the browser, as you can see here. So if the training provider was Acme Training, the portal address would likely be http://acmetraining.webducate.com.au. You'll notice that the training provider logo shows, and this page can be further branded if requested. Webducate users include training provider administrators, trainers and students. They all log on at the same portal address. So if a user forgets their password, they are able to request a new one to be sent to their registered email address by using the tab shown on the login page. All things being well though, enter your email address and password, then click Login. Once you've logged in, you'll be taken to what we call a dashboard. The dashboard has several features that are common to all users and some that apply to users that have specific permissions on the system. Commonly, all users have several tabs: the My Webducate, or the standard dashboard, the Messages tab, the Messages tab is essentially an internal emailing system. And you can see by this snapshot that I've got a number of people that I've been communicating with and that there are several messages. It can also show me when a message started or a communication started, as well as when the last message was. And the good thing about this is many of our training providers use this as a way of tracking student progress. So it's a little bit like a log, a communication log. And you can see some of the other tabs here. I can see my sent messages, all messages, or I can write a new message on the system. The next tab is the My Account tab. The My Account tab is essentially the user's profile. So in here you can see it has an address for me, as well as a profile of myself as an administrator. With students, their profile will also include their EvetMIS data because they complete that at enrolment. And I actually am sort of a student on the system here, which is why I have an assessments tab. So if I were to click on that, which I won't at this stage, but it would take me to all of the assessments that I may have done on the system as a student. All users can edit their own account. So your students can be changing their own phone numbers if they need to, or address. The last tab on the dashboard is the Logout tab, and obviously we're not going to click that at this point, so I'm just going to go back to the My Webducate dashboard. Now this dashboard is populated with a number of courses and enrolments and some information about the organisation. But if I was a new member, likely the first thing that I would want to do is to go into my organisation and perhaps add some information in there. So in this case you can see that I've uploaded the logo for my organisation, and I've also put in some details on the organisation itself, well, its scope of registration, and some other information like the address. The system gives automatic Google Maps and some emails and so forth. So to do that, this is the view, but to edit or to put in that information in the first place, I obviously go to the Edit tab and I just type it in the edit fields that are provided for each piece of information. And you can see that here. The next thing that I might want to do is to have a look at the staff that are with my training organisation. And so I've got a full snapshot of the existing staff here, and you'll notice that they have various permissions or various ticks in each of the boxes. In the Managing Online workshop, I do go into quite a lot of detail on how to set permissions so that the various people in your organisation can do and see different things depending on their autonomy or their empowerment that the RTO administrator wishes to give them. But here is a snapshot of the global permissions, and you can see I've got a number of staff members that are listed down the left hand side and permissions in a bunch of different roles along the top here. So if I had a new staff member come on board and I wanted to add them to the system so that they could use the online functionality, very simple. I just go to the Add New User and click on the link. It will open me up an ability to create a profile for that user. So their email address, confirm their email address. I can give them a starting password. They can change that password themselves when they log in. I can put a whole lot of information in there in terms of their name, contact details, physical and postal address. Now you can either put in the physical and postal address and contact details of them in the training organisation, or you can use this as a little bit of a HR system so that you've got quick reference to their home number should you need to use that, and their home address. I can also upload their photo simply by choosing a file, going to my system and uploading that. I can type in a Skype ID if you do use Skype. I can also put in a profile on the user, and once I've put in a profile I can also link documents like PDF documents. So if I put on their profile, for instance, that they have a certificate for in training and assessment, I can actually scan and link that document here so that it again is a little bit like a HR system, really quick reference. I can also put in their tax file number or their ABN depending on their employment status. I can put their qualifications, and there's a section in there for them to put in approved units that they're able to deliver. The next little section is the VETMIS information. Now this goes to students as well, but you can put it in for your trainers because in all likelihood you may be creating some courses that are professional development courses for your staff on Webducate, or they may be studying with you as well. And then I click the Create New Account button, which I'm not going to do at this point because I don't want to create a real user. Once I've created my staff, and I can go back and create other staff as they come on, but the next thing that I might want to do is to start to create courses, and this process is really quick, really simple and really easy. So I've clicked on the Courses tab, and you can see that I have a little link here that says Create Courses. If I click on that, it will take me to an administration section whereby I can put a whole lot of information in there about my course. So the code, the name, a unit overview, an introduction, and then set up some administration information about my course. I'm just going to go back and show you one that I've started. But essentially, the reason I'm seeing this Create Course link is because I have permission on the system to create courses. You may not give all of your users or your staff permission to create courses on the system. If they don't have permission to create a course, then they obviously won't see this link. So I'm just going to click on a course that's in an unpublished status. That means that it's still being worked on. There actually is a quality control mechanism that you go through from when you start your course. It's in unpublished format like this one here. To the next stage is it goes to moderation, so anyone who has moderation rights can then see it and give you feedback. And the last step, when everything's right with your course, you publish it, which means it's then live and you're able to enroll students. So I've got an unpublished one here, and there are a couple of places that I can tick. I can click on Edit, or I can in fact click on the name or the code of the course. but in this case I'll just get used to the edit functionality. And it comes up with all of those pieces of information that I need to set up about my course, which we'll go through now. So I'm in edit mode, and the first thing I see is a drop-down industry identifier. So these are the federal industries, so I can click on the industry that my course belongs to. This is not a mandatory field, so you can leave this blank if you want to. The next thing I've put in is my code. In this case, it's a nationally recognised qualification, so I have put the correct code in. But again, you don't need to put a code in if you don't want to, or in fact, if it's a not nationally recognised qualification or it's not accredited, you can use your own coding protocol in here. And I have put in a name for this particular course, and that is a mandatory field. You must call it something. The next section that I get to fill out is called the course overview. And you'll notice that the editor, while it's a limited functionality, it is a very Microsoft-like editor, so it's quite intuitive to use. You can copy and paste in here, you can type directly in here, you can insert images and do a whole range of things that you can with a normal editor. In the course overview, this is the information that you would normally present to a student pre-enrollment. So you're talking about what's in the qualification, the units, maybe some information on how they're expected to study or how they can help themselves online, but it's pre-enrollment information. And you can see here that I've actually got some links to those units that are in this course. And if I were to view this course, it would take me to the training.gov.au link to the exact unit of competency. The next section that I have to fill in is the course introduction. The introduction is the first page that a student sees when they log into their course. So sometimes the information in the overview and the introduction is similar or the same, and you can see here that it is in some cases. But the introduction, because it's the first page, I may put in extra or different information as well to help the students get started. So that could include anything like reminding the students to have the latest version of Internet Explorer, that they need to have Adobe Reader on their system, that they can contact their training provider, and you can give them the website and the phone number if they do need help. Next is to put in some administrative information about how you want the course and the assessment to work. So the first section here is the number of assessment attempts, and you can see there's a little instruction line down underneath the number. Basically it's the number of attempts at any one assessment that you as an RTO want to give students before the system locks them out. It defaults to 3 because that's industry standard. So if a student has 3 attempts and doesn't pass the assessment, then the system will lock them out of any further attempts at that assessment. They can see other assessments, they can do other assessments, they can see their content. That particular assessment though, they will be locked out. The nominated trainer will be notified that a student has been locked out, and you can give as many second chances as you like. But we suggest that once a student's been locked out, they really do need to have some human contact, so give them a call and find out what the problem is with the assessment. The next 2 sections, so shuffle questions and shuffle choices, are all about multiple choice assessments. If you tick yes for shuffle questions and you have a 10-question multiple choice, what will happen is that the second time a student's presented with that multiple choice assessment, because they failed the first time, the questions will be reordered. So question number 1 might become question number 4, and so on. If you tick yes for shuffle choices, then all the multiple choice options will be shuffled as well, so the A to E possible responses. If you've got both there, basically the first time a student sees the assessment, the assessment looks different the second and third and subsequent times that they see it. So although it's not a different assessment, it does make them re-engage with the content and rethink about their answers, just rather than just remembering what they did on the first attempt. The last section here is whether you want to have final approval before the student is notified that they are competent. So if you select yes here, then once a student has been shown as competent in all the summative assessments, they'll be flagged as pending review, and the training provider's admin has to make a final assessment or a judgment call to determine whether the student is competent or not. This is particularly useful if you're using the online method as part of a blended learning strategy. If you tick no here, the student will be automatically marked as competent in the course once all of the summative assessments have been graded as competent. Once you've completed all that information, you click the Saved button. Now you'll see here on the dashboard that the course that I was just working on, which is unpublished, has now been updated, and I can go back into that, and this time I'll click the name of the course itself. And what I'm seeing here is the course overview that I typed in earlier. I can see that the next step is to send the course for moderation. I can delete and clone that course as well. But at this point, I've just set up the administration. There is no content in this particular course. But to add content, all I do is click on the Components button. And it tells me that there are no components, and to add some using the Add New Unit link above. So very clear, the unit's showing to me because I have permission. But when I add the new unit, the system will take me to the Webducate marketplace or to the library. So you can see here all of these boxes are units that are sitting in the marketplace ready to be deployed through your portal and your course. And there are literally hundreds of them on the system. So of course scrolling through them page by page can be a little bit tiresome and time consuming. So to find the units that I want, I can filter them according to code. So I simply type in the code of the unit that I'm after, hit search, and I can search by the unit name or even the publisher if I particularly want to work with one of the publishers in their entirety. And you'll see that that unit's actually come up. So what I'm seeing here is the title and code of the unit. It's $18.50 per student, and it was created by Aspire Learning Resources. The great thing about the marketplace here is that I get a full preview of the content before I decide to drop it into my course. And to do a preview, I just simply click on the link. This is the information that was set up by Aspire Learning Resources, so it's a description of the unit itself. I can click on and view everything by accessing. And what I see here is virtually the way that a student is going to view this unit component of the course. The only difference between what I'm seeing and what a student would see is that I've got a trainer information section in here. One of the things that Aspire does is to link a document, which I won't click on here, but you can download this document, which has the mapping, some information about the unit, the employability skills and so forth that a trainer can download and print about the course. So I can navigate exactly the same as a student by using the Next and Previous button at the top, or I can navigate using the left-hand side navigator and view my pages this way. And this particular developer, Aspire, are very sophisticated in the types of information they put. So they have videos and they have little drag and drop objects and text and documents that students can download and audio and so forth. So once I've previewed the content and I'm happy with that, I need to select it and drop it into my course. In order to select it, I go back to the library and I click anywhere in the blue box. Click Save, and I've now dropped that particular unit into my course. So if I view that now, it will show that this unit is already included. So I've got a second unit that I want to put in the course, which I'll quickly go and do. And one of the things that I can do here is the order that the units show on this list is the order that they're going to be presented to students. So I might say, well, you know what, I really need to have OH&S first. So all I do is drag and drop the OHS unit first and then save the ordering, and now that particular unit's going to show. To view the course as it will be seen by a student, go back into View, access the course, and now we're going to see it as a student will see it. So here I've got my course itself. I have 2 units in the navigator. I can open up those trees and take me into the content, or I can click Next. So literally, with the exception again of the trainer information, I'm seeing this more or less as a student is going to see that. I'll just click out of that for now. If as the course creator for my training organisation, I'm now happy with what I've set up, which is the course overview, the introduction, the units that I've dropped into the course, then my next step would be to go through the quality control procedures and send this course to moderation by clicking the link, and it double checks with you, just send to moderation. The system will now take you back to the dashboard, and you can see that the course is Certificate 3 in Business Administration Core Units is now showing as in moderation. So any staff member who has moderation permissions on this system for this training organisation is now going to be able to see this course. And we'll just see what that looks like, because I'll go in to Blueprint, see my staff. So you can see here the people who are going to be able to see this course and be able to give feedback is Donna Mortlock, Rachel, Keith and Renee are also all going to be able to see this content now and to be able to give feedback. So I'll just jump back to courses and you'll see that course in moderation. Here it is down the bottom. If I'm happy with that, so my staff or even an industry rep that I might have given access to the system has now given me feedback on the content and the assessment. I might have made some changes to my unit overview or added different units in there in terms of the feedback that they gave me. But if everything is now good to go, I can go into the edit button again, go to View, and I can publish my course. Click the link of Publish. Now what it's asking you here is, are you sure you want to publish the content? And it's giving you a costing on the resources. So it's telling you that you have 2 units. So per student that does this course, it's going to cost you $37 for the resources. And then it's asking you how much you would like to sell the course for. Now this information is not presented to anyone except the administrators and the trainers in the RTO. So it really doesn't matter what you put in here, but it's just so that you can get an idea of maybe your cost resource percentage. So for instance, you might say, well, resources need to be 10% of the cost of a course. So you might put in here $370 would be your cost. But let's say, for example, we charge $295 per unit, and this course has 2 units in it. The price that I'm going to put down there is $590 per student, and then I'm going to click publish. It's very important that you only click publish when you are sure that the course is ready to go live and ready to have students enrolled in it, because once you've published it, you can't change it on the fly. There are processes that you can use, such as errata and supersede, to make changes, you know, a couple of months down the track. But if you make a silly mistake, like maybe not have a link working properly, then once it's published, that link's not working properly until you contact Webducate, and we can of course fix it for you. So I can see on my dashboard that I have 5 courses showing, but I do have a link to show all of them here. And one of the courses is the published course, Certificate 3 in Business Administration Core Units. That basically means that it is ready to have students enrolled in it. But I'm just going to click on that course because there might be a couple of other things that I do need to set up. And that is the staff, the trainers that I might want to allocate to this particular course only. So in here, my staff, so far I have Renee, who is able to do everything, and I might take her off as a trainer but allow her to manage enrolments. And the permissions here we do go through in the managing online training session, so I won't go into a huge amount of details here. But if I did want to add another staff member, I can search existing users. It will come up with all of the staff that are associated with this training provider. So I might click on another one in the blue space, and I might give Karen permission just to be able to view student reports, and then I save those grants. The next type of user I have is my trainers, and it may be that I want a particular trainer to teach this course. So here I'm going to give myself as the primary trainer. That means that for all units I can deliver and assess those. The other thing that you can do here is do what we call an override trainer for specific units. And again, we do go into this in more detail in the Managing Online Training session. But suffice it to say that this allows us to match trainers not only to a course or a qualification, but also to a specific unit, which for compliance and audit is fantastic. The next tab that I have here is the enrolments, and because this is a totally new course, I clearly don't have any enrolments here. But in order to get some enrolments with my students, I use the token process. So let's say, for example, a student comes to me and says, I want to enroll in the Cert 3 in Business Administration, the core units to start. I'd like to deposit the money into your bank account. You go to your bank account, you check that they've deposited, and you create a token. So you go to the Tokens tab, create token, and send the student an email. Just type in their email address. And click Send Token. The system now is going to take over the whole enrolment and EvetMIS data collection process behind the scenes on your behalf. But you can see here I have a token. This is what the token looks like. It's been sent to the Webducate test student at hotmail.com. It was generated on the day and time, and thus far it is unclaimed. What happens at this point is Webducate generates an automated email, and the student clicks on the email and takes themselves through the whole enrolment process. When they submit, it will take them to their course, which in this case is the Cert 3 in Business Admin. So the most difficult thing about the whole enrolment process is checking your bank account to see if your students have paid. There is a really easy way to have the students enrolling without any human contact at all, which is to integrate your website, your e-commerce and Webducate all together. And if anyone's interested in that, please let me know, because I can talk to you further about how that can be done. So I've now sent the token to my student, and I'm going to go back to the dashboard and we'll continue our little features and functionality tour from here. So back to where we're familiar, we've had a look at the courses box on the dashboard, so I'm just going to close that down, and I'm going to drag over the box for enrolments so that we can have a look at that. So you'll see some more links. So if I did want to check out the course, and let's say Basic Barista, all I would do is click on the link. The system will take me to the course itself, so as an administrator or a trainer I can have a look at that course. And I might want to review the assessment, short answers, case studies. The final practical is an observation checklist, and then go on to the next unit. The other thing that I can see is the enrolments, and in here you can see a number. So I've got 21 enrolments in the barista course. If I click on that link, it will take me to the students who are enrolled and give me a snapshot of that class if you like. So again, I'm going to see the staff, the trainers, and the enrolments. And the snapshot allows me to drill down further into some information that I might want to see. So I might want to drill further into the user's profile to see their contact details, for instance, if I did want to give them a call and say, how are you going with the training? And clearly with a student that's 0% complete when their last login was August 2010, that might be something that is worthwhile doing. I can also drill down into my own profile or any of the trainers that are with this RTO, because I'm an administrator on the system. I can manage the enrolment of the student, and in here manage enrolment may mean that I want to change the primary trainer. So for instance, if I was going on holidays for 4 weeks, I wouldn't want students to be completing assessment that requires me to mark and for it to be sitting on my dashboard unmarked for 4 weeks. So while I'm away, I might assign a different trainer, and therefore any assessment that student does now is going to go to Keith's in tray. I can send mail, which is the internal messaging system, and I can view the results. So for instance, if I wanted to see Kim's results, click on the View Results tab, and it will show me the full file of their work, regardless of whether they've done the assessment or not. So in this one you can see the final written assessment. It clearly says that they have not yet attempted, but down the left hand side is the full assessment file. So I can click on any of those assessments, and I can see with this one, this particular student has had 3 attempts and still needs to be doing another one. They've been given another chance by their trainer, they haven't yet passed it. So I can click all the way through that to see where the student is up to, whether they've finished or not. You'll also notice on this snapshot that I can actually filter by only students, for instance, who are competent. And I can create what's called a CSV download. So I'll just create one very quickly. Basically, it's a spreadsheet that's the standard way of uploading data from one system to another. And that's the common way of sending a VetMIS data also from the Webducate Learning Management System into whichever student management system you might use to report your data, or in fact whichever HR information system you might use if it's a staff-based system. I can also see on this course what tokens have been issued and whether they've been claimed or not. And of course I can create a token as I showed you before. So I'll just click back to my dashboard. Now, the next thing I'm just going to show you quickly is I'm going to go back into my organisations, because we have gone through most of these things, but there's always different ways of accessing information through Webducate depending on where you start. So in here I've got the view of the training organisation. I can also get a full view of all of the students that are enrolled and a snapshot of their name, the course, how far through or the percentage complete, who their trainer is, and I can see here that I've forgotten to allocate a trainer to one of these students, and I can see when the student last logged in. I can also send them a message, and I can of course filter out information. So at this point I can also create a CSV download of all of my students. I can edit my RTO, which we've had a look at before. Look at all of my staff and their various permissions. I can see all of my courses and the status that they are in. I can also see all of the units that as a training organisation I've created on the system and put into the marketplace for myself and for other users to access. And again, we do go into considerable detail in the developing content on Webducate workshop on how to actually do that. So our silver and our gold members are able to create content that they can use themselves, thus saving quite a lot of money on the resource use, and also they can put it in the marketplace for other members to license and pay for. The next thing is, when I've created units as a silver or gold member, I can see by date range anything that has been used by other members. So for instance here I've got a member, the Institute of Training Career Development, who have used 2 of my responsible service of alcohol units. So at the end of this month I should receive a cheque in my bank account from Webducate for $30. And I can search those by date so that I can determine how much of my product is being used. And the last little tab here is the unit purchases. So this is the purchases that I may have made from other developers on the system. So in this case you can see it's Blueprint Career Development using its own resource here. So essentially it's not what I would invoice myself, however it does give me a bit of a snapshot about how much I'm saving by having developed that unit myself. So I determined how much it was. When I developed that unit I said it was going to be $15 that I wanted to receive if any other member used that unit, and Webducate adds on a $2 fee to make it a total of $17, of which Webducate retains $2 for student access fees. So that's for data transfer and so on. So I'll just go back to the My Webducate dashboard, and you can see by the dashboard that we've pretty much covered most of the things, at least in a very basic format of what Webducate does. But as I mentioned earlier, there are 2 other sessions that you might be interested in attending. One of them is called Developing Content. So that's where we spend a considerable amount of time working in this little function box here to create content on the Webducate system. About as technically difficult as creating a reasonably good PowerPoint, so it's quite easy. And the other online session that we have is Managing Online Learning. So in that session we go into a little bit more of the permissions and how to set the system up for reporting and so forth to best suit your training organisation. So that's it for now. So have a fantastic day, and by all means, if you have any questions at all, feel free to give us a call on 1300 eLearn. So that's 1300 353 276, or to email us on sales@webducate.com.au. Hope to hear from you soon. Meanwhile, have a fantastic day.